Welcome to the Brady Marcs podcast with your host Brady Yashia from Brady Marcs Buyers Advisory. Enjoy discussions with a variety of guests and pioneers from diverse backgrounds, each sharing their unique perspectives on property, business, industry, and more.
Today we have the privilege of introducing an exceptional guest, Imogen Callister. Imogen is a renowned keynote speaker and a true trailblazer in business coaching and digital profiling. With over a decade of experience in media, her journey has been defined by a relentless commitment to excellence. A proud graduate of the University of New South Wales with a degree in communications and media, she has made it her mission to empower businesses to leverage digital platforms for growth and deeper audience engagement. Working with over 5,000 business owners across Australia, she has become a trusted advisor to some of the country's top agents, helping them navigate the fast-paced world of digital media, unlock growth opportunities and maximise their digital presence. Welcome, Imogen, or Imi, I should say.
Thank you.
So exciting to have you here today.
My absolute pleasure.
I'm sure the audience are going to learn a lot from you. So let's start at the beginning. Can you tell us what drew you to being a digital profiling expert and also a business coach?
So look, my background is I was formerly a broadcast news reader and journalist. And for those listeners out there that don't believe that, that's all from the Media Coach. I'm Imogen Callister. Thanks for joining me. But I very quickly realised after about 6 to 7 years of study that job was dead because nobody was going home and watching the 6 o'clock news anymore. And so I kind of came to this life force where I was like, well, I really love media, but I've got to master what's going to take it, and that's digital and social media. One of my very dear clients, actually so funny, sent me a reel from TikTok, and it was like, did you know the average watch time, and don't quote these stats, but it was like 98,000 people tune in to sometimes mainstream television in America. And it's like he was sending that as a comparison to his profile, which had over 1 million views. And I was like, yeah, we're killing it. But it is, like for me, it really, my background has always been my love of media and where I really stemmed to transforming how that was changing. We have to remember 97% really of all Australians have some form of social media, and they spend 1 hour and 58 minutes every day browsing the platform. So as a business owner, we have to understand technology is changing the way we're communicating with people. And a lot of people get scared of that change. But what I just want to empower people, especially from today, is the phone is still in their hand. It's just not next to their ear. You're not talking to them. You've got to send messages to them.
That's an amazing intro. And I have to say that things change so quickly, and you're quite right. We've got to move with the times. So over the past decade, what are the changes you've seen on digital platforms for real estate professionals?
So many. I mean, so there's two types to any business or any agent's brand. You've got what's called your active brand, and then you've got what's called your passive brand. So your passive brand is what people find out when they research you. So if I'm going on a journey to find a real estate agent in this area, what journey am I going to find in that brand? And a lot of the times I talk about that being someone's digital health. Platforms, for example, like LinkedIn have over 15 million Aussies registered, but only 5.5 log in every month. So there's a lot of crappy profiles out there. But if I'm a person looking to employ your services, am I going to find a crappy profile or a good profile? So you've got this passive brand that almost works behind you. And of course you can do things like Google ads in that sort of space. But if you're really real estate focused, you don't want to be really investing in that because you're up against huge portals like REA and that sort of thing. But then you've also got what's called your active brand. So that's things like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all those platforms where you can put out content and really connect with people. And the biggest thing is you have to understand is these solid facts is 79% of people will not answer a mobile call if they don't know the number calling, but 90% of people will read a text message in the first 90 seconds.
Very true. Yeah.
People are on their phones more than ever. I mean, I dare you, let's look around the room today and let's see how far we can find someone with their phone a distance from them. Most people suffer from no phone phobia, right? So the phone's always very close.
Yes.
But what a lot of businesses don't really understand is the traditional way of which we connect with customers, which is we always want to speak to people. We are still speaking to them, but we're speaking with them in a different way. And I think when we really look at media, and if there was one advice for someone sitting out there, it's really understanding three things: branding, marketing, advertising. And a lot of people will, let me give you an example. They'll say, oh, yeah, I use Facebook. I'll say, oh, fantastic. And is your brand on there? And we'll go through that. No, great. And, do you use any other channels? Oh, yeah, but not particularly well. So that means my brand's out of date. And I'll say, are you running an ad, or are you boosting, or what? Like, how are you connecting? Oh, no. Well, Facebook's a pay-to-pay space. So they're not just going to give you free. Business pages have very limited organic reach. It's around as little as 1%. So if you're putting up a post there and not advertising that well. So let me just break those three words down, because they're quite complex when we really look at them. And if you have a pen and paper, if you're driving, definitely don't do that. Pull over. But if you do, if you can understand these three words, they can help you build a phenomenal business plan and a plan for the future. So branding, what is my unique selling point? And am I showcasing that on my platforms that I'm using? Marketing, what channels am I specifically using to get that unique selling point and message displayed?
Yeah.
So there's no point in having out-of-date profiles on LinkedIn but looking phenomenal on Facebook. You want what's called like an omni-channel brand. And then advertising. Who am I paying to amplify that message? Because if you're missing one of those, you'll typically miss the contact with your customer. And that's where you've really got to break things down. It's all good to be jumping on Facebook or Instagram, but unless you're really willing to put up a nude, which I don't recommend anybody to do, you're not going to get the world's best engagement. And 9 times out of 10, if you're going viral, especially if you're a real estate agent, you're calling me with a massive problem, right? Because you're like, oh, just gone viral for all the wrong reasons. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I know. And the whole idea of going viral, it's the consistency of messages that builds businesses and it builds brands. But if I was to look at, in answering your question, the real formula of understanding, people get so overwhelmed, those 3 segments. And you ask yourself, if I was to research you today, is my unique selling point, is my mission standing out on my brand? Is it really identifiable? And what channels am I using? Get rid of the other channels that you're not going to use. Every time somebody is researching you, make it phenomenal. And lastly, advertising, get that message and punch it out there, because you have the right to reach more customers if you pay to play in that space.
That is amazing advice. Thank you. I'm sure the listeners are very happy with that. So how does a real estate professional balance being authentic and still have a professional image online?
What is I love this question. So, and this is me being my true authentic self. What does authentic mean? Because for me, authentic, which time of day have you got me? Is it when my 2-year-old toddler's screaming at me and I'm trying to negotiate to keep her pants on? Or is it the high polished professional Immy trying to inspire and help people grow their business and brand? What I would firstly say is, number one, you've got to make sure your brand meets your market. I've done more than 5,000 conferences now as a keynote speaker, which blows my mind a little bit that people still allow me on stage.
That's very impressive, I might add. Very impressive.
But you've got to make sure your brand meets your market. If you're a luxury real estate agent and you're selling luxury homes, then of course you're welcome to drive around in Maseratis. But I don't actually think if you're selling $500,000 or $1 million homes or even $1.5 million homes, if you're dressing really flashy, racy and showing how much money you make, that anybody would ever look down at a photo on Instagram and go, gosh, that guy looks really genuine. Mm-hmm. He looks like a person I'd want to meet. So the first thing that you really want to do is understand, and specifically for real estate here, is there's 3 things that somebody looks for in an agent. Is, can I trust you? We're still dealing with people's largest financial asset here. When people are moving home, it's typically over death, divorce, or debt. And we are helping people through what can be a very challenging time of their life.
Yeah.
The second thing is experience, right, and credibility. So what are you showcasing online? We all love those white sneakers and they'd be super expensive, but is that really funneling your experience and your credibility? Isn't standing next to somebody who's just actually really sold that property and really excited with them going to really generate better? One of the best posts that I've ever done is a little old granny, and it was that moment that the auction sold, and all she did is just hug the agent, and she said, I couldn't have done this without you, and she was in tears. That is more powerful than anything. And then the last one is like your negotiation skills, because I'm still yet to meet one person that goes, God, I'd really love a terrible price for my property. So how are you showcasing that? So when we talk about authenticity, social media really brings a world of fabric, it's totally fake. I mean, this morning I've dealt with my 2 children. I've changed nappies before I've all gone out. And, I will definitely be putting a high-res photo of how great I look out there to the world, right? Because that's what we do in social media, in the world we live in and digital. But it's actually about asking yourself, if somebody was to genuinely see your brand, are they connecting with those 3 things, especially if you're an agent?
Yeah. And trust is so important in this industry. I think that if the trust isn't there, whatever you put out, you're not going to capture the audience.
Correct. And it's so funny because I think a lot of people look at trust now as how many reviews do I have? Yet the online review space, it's like the most powerful thing that you can do for that is how you manage your bad review, if you've ever had one, because people don't look at good reviews. No one believes a good review. Like, yeah, we've all got 5 stars. Well, that's almost unattainable, right? People almost have this authenticity problem with it where it's like, oh, well, that's not true. But it's like, what about a bad review? How is that managed? And it's not just it's not actually the bad review doing you damage, but the way in which you respond to it, because that's what people will actually read. Ask yourself, next time you go out to a restaurant, next time you go to something, you'll look the review up online, or you'll look for reviews, and you'll instantly not look for the good, you'll look for the bad, right? So we're looking at that response. But trustworthiness, it's a hard word, and it's a hard thing to replicate in your branding. And the only advice that I could give you is, if you are doing that, trust comes from what your clients say about you.
Yes.
And it's about you showcasing that you really love what you do and you love helping people. Sometimes we look at little words, but let me give you an example. I made $5 billion in GCI. I mean, it's remarkable that agents are the only industry in the world to do that. Versus I was able to help more than XYZ people with their property goals. Like, get rid of the whole commission stance. Nobody cares about how much money you made. So there's just small things that you can make that can build trust into your brand. But really, it's raving fans that will always be the most powerful source of business revenue for you too, or growth.
So what would your advice be if someone has a bad Google review? How would you tell them to respond to that?
Really good question. The first thing is, I always say respond rapidly, but not online, right? So the worst thing that you can do is pick up that phone and call that person and say, oh, look, I'm really sorry about everything that's happened, and I really want you to take your review offline right now. Because what you've just done is empowered them, and what they did was right. So it's really important you use dialogue, or you get a senior manager in the business and you say, look, this feedback is really important to me. You are really important to me, and I will do everything we can to ensure that you walk away with a smile on your face. And I just want to see if we can break down that issue today and see what we can do to bring it back to that. So the first thing is mediate offline, but don't ever ask them to take the review offline, because what you're doing is empowering that person and employing that person. Ideally, go above and beyond to help your customer. What I typically always look at is, if you are getting a bad review, nobody likes to admit it, and we all work with difficult customers. I'll often say to my real estate clients, for a little bit of a laugh, I'll say, you have a problem with a vendor. Imagine managing 50 high-profile really agents that are all stressed out, and they'll laugh at me. But one of the things that is really important is analysing that problem, like what caused that issue. Because it's okay for it to happen. It's okay for a customer to be let down, but how do you ever stop it happening again?
Yes.
I work in social media. We do more than 400 designs a day. Like, at one point, my girl's going to make a typo, but I don't care about the mistake. It's like, what can we do to stop that ever happening again? We're never allowed to copy out a suburb. We're never allowed to copy out an address, an agent's mobile details. Because if we copy and paste that, we're always going to get it right. And if we quality control it and we send it for proofing, we're always going to get it right. But what is really important when you're looking at a review is what actually originally caused the problem, and can you work with your customer to make sure that they understand that that was a human issue and you really want to help them fix it. And then the last thing that's really important, especially if it is online, is respond to it, right? And this feedback is really acknowledge that person. This feedback is really important to us, and I know that we're working through those steps, and update that review.
Yes.
Hi, Amy, thank you so much for your time and your chat, and we appreciate the property journey XYZ, and that you did mention that you were going to meet the agent out. I'm just making this review up outside at XYZ, and however they were 5 minutes late. We do apologise. Their last open home was running a little bit late, and we do deeply. And most people look at that and go, "Oh, mate, he was 5 minutes late. Like, give the guy a break. We're all 5 minutes." But explain the issue in a meaningful way, you
Yes.
know, because show you care is really important. A lot of people, I will read a review and I almost can't help but laugh. You know, they'll almost explode the issue even further in their response. And you're like, no, this is not the space to air garbage. You always want to show you care, respond rapidly, and, you know, appreciate their feedback, you know, and also say if there's absolutely anything we can do to assist you further, please contact us at any time. And what happens to consumers, and I employ anybody doing that that's going to go and buy at a restaurant or go get food or go on that journey of looking at reviews, they'll typically look at the response and go, oh, they're a nice person. And you'll win business off it.
Yes, and constructive criticism is very important. So if you can learn from your mistakes and make it better next time and avoid that situation, it's a win-win.
We're all human, right? Like
Exactly.
Nobody's ever going to be perfect, and especially through the, you know, if we're looking at a property transaction or a big business decision, everyone is always going to be in a heightened emotional state. And then we're also an industry layered with a lack of credibility. You know, even buyer's agents, you know, in America, we think this is kind of almost a little bit of a newer world in Australia, but buyer's agents transform the way people transact in America. You can't operate without them. You need one.
Exactly.
And in Australia, it's really surging here because they do offer such a unique point of difference to help people through that property transaction. I mean, it is true. An agent works for their owner. A buyer's agent works for the person buying the property. And
That's
it's
right.
a really useful resource to have. But it is really, really important that we all understand we are human, and we're also dealing with people. This will make me sound totally crazy, but when I have ever bought and sold a home, every time I have, I've journaled my emotions. It's just like I'm nuts. It's okay, listeners out there. I do understand I'm nuts. But I've done it with a true meaning, which is to actually be able to really help my client really understand what a person feels in that moment. Do you know what it's like when the hammer falls and your little girl has grown up in that house and it's like, I'm letting her go away, all those memories? Or the house that you've grown up in with your dad sick and they can't afford to pay the mortgage. Like, it's hard and you're letting go of those memories. So I guess it's the same as a hairdresser, right? Like, a real estate professional is not just somebody that is transacting property. They're actually really helping people help come to difficult terms and decisions.
Yes. The real estate arena is such an emotional place. The highs and the lows. It doesn't matter which side of the equation you are, it's an emotionally filled experience. So what would you say that elite top real estate professionals do to keep their loyal audience online? What is it?
Consistency. It takes commitment to start. It takes consistency to finish. Like, I'll often have this and I'll really see, like, what's the difference in a high performer? I got asked this question really differently. I said, well, that's easy. Consistency. Day in and day out to do the same task and remain consistent at it. I mean, the world we live in at the moment is a little bit instant gratification. We all like, you know, it's probably why, like, quitting sugar is so hard because it's right in front of us all the time. Or, you know, the world we want, we can always access things really quickly. Yeah. We can get a hold of things really quickly. And so the world we live in is always like instant gratification. Like, service is such a huge challenge for many businesses now because everybody expects things on demand, right? Like, we talk about this new arena of the digital, I don't even know what the law is called, but the right to disconnect. It's like, can you imagine a real estate agent writing to their vendor, or you as a buyer's agent writing to your vendor saying, oh, sorry, it's after 5 p.m, so I have the right to disconnect today and I will not be taking it. Like, that's never going to happen.
Not
right?
in our arena.
No way. I would actually love to see one of my clients write that. But when we go back to that question of high performance, it's hard to run at that level all the time.
Yes.
It's hard to be available for people all the time. And if we're looking at somebody in the digital space, it often becomes the last task, right? But those that do it phenomenally well. And a lot of people, like, if we look at them, and I'm so proud to call these people my friends, if not clients, is, you know, we look at someone like Lisa Novak. Well, she totally transformed her brand, and I'm sure Lisa'd be fine me saying this, but she copped a lot of people and feedback and people telling her she's terrible. I've sat with her in Double Bay in a random walk up to the street and be like, I watch all your social media, you're amazing, you know? So the first one is that commitment. She just kept on going. Like Maddie Steinway, you will see a video loaded with him every 3 days, you know? This instant thing of, oh, I'm going to build a brand overnight. It's not going to happen.
No.
So it's always that commitment to start and consistency to finish. And also I think the real thing here is understanding that you will, if you ever going to put yourself out there and try to build, whether it's a personal brand or a business brand, you know, the world of digital warriors, they're always going to be there. You know what I mean? You're always, I think there's some of the comments I've read about me. I mean, I personally laugh at them because I've had to deal with like grow thick skin, but people will always take a stab. And I think that's where a lot of people get fearful of. It doesn't happen rapidly. Oh no, this person, or it's like self-doubt. Like, I don't look good in that photo. Well, nobody's looking at it that closely, mate. Only you know?
I'm guilty of that. I have to say, my team will tell you that I'll look at a photo and say, definitely not. That's not going up.
If any of you put bad photos of me online, you're all dead. Just after saying that, authenticity. No, I'm kidding. But it is. Like, and I work with the clients and I manage personal brands, right? And I manage their brand in their market and I will add all prongs of it. So I'll look at that photo and I'll genuinely be like, no, you look good in that. And they'll be like, no, I look terrible. And I'll be like, no, you look fine. So that perfectionism, does that make sense? Or that fear of what other people think stops that.
Yeah.
And so if you get over that and you get consistent and you stop expecting it to be an instant result, and the last thing I will say, invest some money into it, because nobody likes to hear that. But as I said, unless we want to go down the path of the nude, you need to invest in it, because otherwise you're not going to have that formula. You know, you're going to put out a lack of inconsistency. It's not going to happen because you're not consistent in it. There's not a resonating brand message constantly going out. It's a lack of sense of self. It's a fake self. Nobody wants to follow that. And, you know, you've got to amplify that message through paying for it. The one other tip that I'll give you there is, and this is where a lot of businesses go wrong, whether you're a real estate agent or not, people follow people on social media. People don't follow businesses. So it's about people connecting with people. Like Facebook's major mission, if you go back to the real hindsight of it, is to connect people. Mark Zuckerberg's ideology is to connect people across the world. It's all about connecting people. And so you'll see a lot of business owners really fight this challenge of, I'm trying to connect business. Like, it's not about that. It's a personal brand. And a really simple way of me answering that question is, if I run an ad from an agency profile versus a personal profile, you're always going to get a lot more from the personal profile because people will communicate with people. Does that make sense?
They resonate with people more so with the brand.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on filters?
I mean, I love them. I'm obsessed with them. You'll never see a photo with me out of filter. You know, it's crazy because I'll be really honest here, probably overshare, but I used to use heaps of filters. Please don't go back through my Instagram. But the more I had my little girl, like the more I kind of got a little bit obsessed with, oh God, I'm really overdoing it there. And like my little girl's already like, she'll grab my handbag and walk out the door and pretend she's on the phone, and she'll loves my makeup, right? So that really changed a reflection on me with filters, but maybe this is oversharing. But I really felt to myself like there's a little bit too far, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think especially if we look at Snapchat and things like that and people distorting some of their facial features, you're like, that's not you. And so I'll tell you this story. I love a filter. I'll always use a filter. So you're welcome to go through my Instagram. And yeah, I've used filters. But it's hopefully if you go through my Instagram and you meet me in person, you're not like, oh, that's like, I've gone to meet someone once, and obviously I won't mention their name, but I couldn't even recognize them at the cafe. I was like, oh, you look like a completely different human. So go for gold. We all deserve a little bit of retouching in our life, and like, you know, use as many filters as you want, but make sure you still look like you, because at the end of the day, like, people need to be able to see you.
And what about updating photos? How regularly should one update a profile photo?
Look, as long as you don't change your hair. I mean, look, I definitely catfished people for at least a good 5 years with my high-res photo while I was pregnant, you know, and I'd turn up and I'd be like, whoa, yeah, I'm definitely don't look like that. But as long as you look like yourself, you can always have your favourite photo. But I always recommend my clients either I can see a little gizmo over here for our audience that can't see, like a DJI, and follow yourself and regularly take photos. And if you don't want to employ yourself in investing in a camera to get great content of yourself, get a photographer out every quarter and get them to follow you around. Because one of the biggest problems of people that don't build brands is they don't have content of themselves, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So whatever you do, you can make anything in life. I was watching the other day on Facebook someone, Gurney, And I was like, oh, God, that's relaxing for me. Just creating this play. But anything that you do, people will be interested in how you do it. Like we're human,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And it's like watching the pavement get clean. It's like, well, you just have to – most people that would run a gurney business wouldn't do that, you know. If an agent is not showing a before and after styling of a home, like that's all the behind the scenes we do. So it's not so much that one headshot that I would say on. I would say get photos as much as you can or invest in a camera or do them every quarter.
Yeah.
Because it'll really help with your social strategy, you know?
You always need photos. You can
Always.
never have too many.
Always.
So you've worked with over 5,000 business owners.
Yeah.
What would be one of the most common challenges they have with digital branding?
Well, the first one there is that building a business profile rather than a personal profile. And if I get really open and honest about that, it's about the fact that you build a profile of somebody that then leaves your business. And that's really hard.
Yes.
That's really hard, you know, like, and I think every business owner faces that in the world that we live in now. People can go off, connect with your customers, connect with them online and then leave your business. And that's really hard. But I think the most common problem that we really see is one is not having a clear strategy, right? And I think there's a lot of people that have rushed into this digital space. And I don't mean to say this rudely but it's kind of like when you sit down with a digital provider or somebody that's going to help you grow your business, a lot of the time people will come and sit down and tell that strategy. As I'll often sit with the client and I'll ask them 3 things. And I want to know what their 3, you know, where do they want to be in a year? Where do they want to be in this time? And where do they want to be in this time and why? And then I'd say what I'd like to share with you now is my experience and how I've called myself a social media specialist and I call myself a digital specialist. And after I tell you that story, I'd like you to know if you think I qualify as that. Because a lot of people will go and source a person who's done one Facebook ad course. And it's like, oh, that person knows how to run it. It's like, actually, did you look at that person's experience or background? And it's hard, especially if you're trying to grow a business. But formally, I think the thing is there's a lot of misinformation out there and there's not a holistic strategy of where you're looking to grow to, you know. And so I think one of the biggest pain points that you'll sit down with people. The other thing that I'll say is the other major pain point is in any business, I'll typically say we don't have a lead problem. We have a lead follow-up problem. So a lot of people will come to me and say, well, generate me more leads. And I'll be like, okay. And then you'll realize they won't even respond to that lead. And you'll be like, well, I got really busy or I didn't know what to write back. And you're like, whoa. So there's also like this disconnect to what you can write to somebody digitally. And I'll say this really lovingly without being rude. But if you're on the phone to someone, you hear their tone, you hear their voice, you hear their intonation, how they're feeling, because that resonates across. As when you hit someone digitally, it's like really blank.
Yeah.
So like if we were to look in the agent realm, the worst thing you can do with a lead is let's go for the common one. Like what's the price guide on this property? I'd say 90% of people would write back 1.2. You're like, what? Hang on. That's not, no. Buyer feedback is currently sitting around the 1.2 mark. I'd love to help you with your property goals. Are you researching to buy, sell, or invest? Because you've got to bring that lead on to the next stage of contact. So I think for a lot of business owners, when they look at a digital plan, the strategy's not there. And then on top of that, they don't have a lead follow-up plan, what they're going to respond to clients, how they're going to keep that client in nurture. Because especially if we look at a transaction like real estate, it typically doesn't happen overnight.
No, definitely not.
You know, I had a client yesterday send me a message and they're like, oh my God, Amy, I've just listed this one off Facebook, but I contacted her a year ago. I'm like, well, that's what typically the real estate cycle is, you know, and well done.
Well, there's 20 touch points, they say, before someone becomes a client.
100%. And I think it's really, really, really important that you look at your long-term strategy. Like if I've sat down with any business owners, it's kind of like, how do we do this? How do we get it happen overnight? And no business, I don't care. I always refer to business growth like weight loss. If it sounds too good to be true, it is, right? Everybody knows if you put down the fork, you don't drink alcohol, you turn up to the gym, you're going to lose a little bit of weight. But if you head to Macca's, binge on the snackies, drink a bottle of wine a night, go and get a little fatter. Same with business growth. You know, if someone's promising you something that sounds too good to be true, and I've seen that sometimes, like it's, you know, get 4 leads or you don't pay. And it's kind of like, Well, how does that work? Because I don't even list a property. You list a property. So how's that? Was a magical fairy going to fly in, sit with you in the living room and list that with you? Or is it like a highly qualified lead that they know through a digital Facebook that they're going to sell? You can't. You
No,
can't.
it's not the same.
So that's all I'd say is I think one of the biggest problems if people think it's hard to build trust in their brand, imagine sometimes being a digital provider, because that person will be sitting in front of me and they'll be so resistant because they've been burnt before. So, but if you look at your holistic strategy of what you're actually trying to grow and you've got those building blocks in place and you look what actually results or tangible success looks like, then you'll always grow, and just don't expect it to happen overnight because, I'd still love to eat some Mickey D's and binge on the bottle of wine, but, I just would be rolling down a hill.
Yeah, nothing happens overnight. So most people are really uncomfortable with getting in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Creating video content is something that people want to do, but a lot of people don't do it because they don't know where to begin and are uncomfortable with what they look like.
Yeah.
So what would your advice be to someone who's starting out?
Yeah. So, it's quite funny because I've even done coaching with politicians on how to deal with journalists and present to camera. Obviously as somebody with a background in television, it's really funny because the first thing is you don't actually have to look at the camera. So go home tonight. I want you to turn on your television. And when you turn that TV on, I want you to have a look at how many people are dead set down the barrel of that camera and presenting to it. Because hardly any are. And when you actually train to be like a journalist and you learn to read to camera, you learn all about your eye levels, you learn about your consistency and how you sit up. Even really funny, this will all make you laugh. But when you learn to be a journalist, part of the reason what you do in your tone is you keep your tone at that level. In other news, a man has been run over southwest of Parramatta. And what I'm actually doing there is controlling the saliva in my mouth so that I can take the break, look down, flip my page. And in other news, an Easter bunny has hopped across the Easter show. And so people kind of have this expectation that they've got to stare down this little camera and this little red light comes on.
Yes.
And it's like, hi, my name's Derek. Welcome to 30. So you don't have to do that. So the first thing is strip it all away, stop looking down the barrel of the camera and start to get comfortable that way, right? I don't think I've ever had a client write me a message after seeing vision of themselves and saying, God, I'm spectacular, right? Actually, probably one. So you do have to, like nobody, there is that truth. You do put on a little bit of pounds in the camera. You always, so second advice, don't watch it back.
I always say, please put the skinny lens on.
Don't watch it. I don't mean to be rude here and I hope this doesn't come, but I won't listen to myself back because if I did, there is feedback and I'd take feedback from people if that was terrible. And like, for example, if you sent me a message and saying that whole podcast is rubbish, I couldn't even publish it, I'd probably take that feedback on. And like my general manager will probably listen to it. But I don't like to listen to myself back because I critique myself so highly. So if you're in that arena where you're starting to hate everything, stop looking at yourself because nobody wakes up in the mirror and goes, God, I'm beautiful, right? Except for me on Tuesdays, kidding. But, so the first thing is just get comfortable with the camera around. Don't try and look down the barrel of it. Go home tonight, look at the TV. Hardly any Big Brother exists because people want to watch other people. Social media, go and look in your feed. As soon as you look in your feed, I actually guarantee you do this. Open up your feed now. Scroll through it. As soon as someone's directly looking at the camera at you, you're being sold to. So that our brain is starting to get socially conditioned to that. The only people that really look down the barrel of the camera are news presenters or the guys that are like, are you feeling a little bit chubby today? Could you enjoy the shake weight? They're selling to you. So actually that form of methodology of filming yourself is not great. So get comfortable with just the camera around and learn the art of what they call B-roll, which B-roll is just shots of yourself. And then you can look at investing in editing suites and things like that to edit things of you. If you really want to go down the course of like presenting to camera, then, you really want to go through a journey and get a coach and with that coach, they've had camera experience and training. But I think a lot of people put too much pressure on the emphasis of themselves of having to be a great presenter when our biggest icons are just social media experts having a stab at a microphone.
Yes.
And try not to look too much down the camera because that will scare you. I remember before that live bulletin used to tick on every day, that red light, I would still be like, oh God, don't screw it, And that's after years of training. So try and just strip it all back and have the camera around, and it'll make a huge difference.
Fabulous advice. What digital trends do you predict happening in the real estate industry over the next 5 years?
Oh, that's a really hard one. I think a lot of people talk about, I always have like a crystal ball. The first one that I'll answer that question is it's going to be more and more harder for people to build brands on the space. What I mean by that is you're going to need a budget in order to do it because social media is becoming busier and busier and busier and busier. You're also wanting to connect with your audience in a meaningful way. And, what I always say to my clients is just remember people can unsubscribe from me from everywhere else from social media. So we want our content to be good, right? Because, it's very easy to just kind of throw things together. But I think we will see more transfer ship online. I think one of the hardest things that we're going to have to really accept is, I said this to my husband the other day. I said that the world we live in is no longer one of fear of our house being robbed, but fear of cybercrime. And so I think there's going to have to be a real lockdown in that space as people get worried about sharing their data and who they're engaging with, if I really look at a long-term challenge. But I think the world of, it's not going to go away. It's not going to go away. I think TikTok came roaring in and everybody wanted to do Reels again, but you've got to remember I've been doing this for such a long time. I've seen video content surge in and then Facebook content surge back in and then now Reels are back in and it all goes around. It's quite an interesting space to constantly watch, but you need to be in it to win it, firstly. You need to be in that space and prevalent in that space and building your brand. But don't get too obsessed with what's going to happen because I can tell you this as somebody that lives and breathes every form of digital aspect. The more I learn, the more I realize the little I know. So you'll never know it all either.
It moves so quickly.
It's like I'll put a guide together for a client and I'll be like, that's already out of date. So, yeah, it's just embracing the nature of it and trying to arm yourself with experts in it. And I know that's sometimes hard to find, but like if you go to a doctor or a dentist, you build a great relationship with them and you start to really learn to know if they know what they're talking about. And if you arm yourself with great people around that digital arena to help you grow in your business and your brand space, or you help you grow as an agent, rather than just taking a crack, you'll save yourself a lot of time and a lot of money.
Good advice. For someone that's brand new, wanting to start off with one of the platforms that they've never used social media for their business, is there a particular platform or are there multiple platforms that you think they should start with to begin?
So if we're looking at a business profile or more agent specific, what would you like me to dive into more there?
I'd say agent specific.
Okay. So if you're a real estate agent, the first thing I want you to do is Google yourself and clean up your brand. If there's anything naughty, dirty or unwanted towards you, get rid of it, right? What can I find? Type your name into YouTube, type your name into LinkedIn. So that's the first thing I want you to do. The second thing I want you to do is choose which platform you like to be on, right? If you don't like LinkedIn and you don't want it, good, get rid of it. If you like Facebook and enjoy Facebook, that is the biggest player. Like 65% of Australians are like, everyone's like, Instagram. I'm like, no, most people have Facebook. And keep in mind that Facebook and Instagram are owned by each other. Facebook is a community app. WhatsApp, Instagram, Messenger, and Facebook itself. So choose one. And whatever you like being on, embrace that. You don't want to be on TikTok? Don't be on TikTok. Don't create a bad profile that's out of date. And then put yourself a little bit of a formula strategy. What content am I going to do over the next month? You don't need a full-on plan, but what content, what earned media, raving fans are you going to put out and showcase that? And what ads are you going to be running? There's not necessarily like one thing that fits all. But what I will say is if you were to choose one, I would definitely say Facebook business page and an Instagram page because that has the largest audience.
Great. Excellent.
Really long-winded answer to that.
No, but it's valuable, particularly to those that are starting out that have nowhere, they don't know where to begin.
Yeah. And there's a difference between a personal profile and a business profile too. So the key point of difference in understanding that is one, you can run an ad from, one you can't. On Facebook, you can't run an ad from your personal profile. On your Instagram profile, you can switch it to a business or a creator, but go creator so you can get better music.
Brilliant advice again. So we spoke a little, well, you mentioned a little bit about generating leads a little bit earlier on. Generating leads is what grows business. How can one balance generating leads but still having a good presence online? Is there something that they should be doing?
So all your ads should generate you leads. So an ad should look very different to a post, right? A post is what people are consuming about you. It's about traction. It's about visibility. It's about you, yourself, your human, and how you're representing your profile. A post should not necessarily be designed to get you leads, right?
Yep.
As an ad should always be specifically targeted to your audiences, designed to create lead generation. So you can have your ad out, for example, I put a post out recently of me calling a client and that client caught on camera me singing to them down the phone, right? But I want people, when they know they're going to work with me, they're going to work with a fun, vibrant human that loves truly what they do. And I don't care if my client's having a bad day, I'm going to make them feel really good about it. But behind the scenes of my brand is 12 really highly optimized ads offering free consultations for real estate agents wanting to grow their business brand or understand more about property ads.
Yep.
Or book a free listing kit training seminar. So I'll have those ads firing out against me that then can go in and book an ad, like a consultation with me. But I wouldn't necessarily post that, right? So also, before you even think about turning on a lead gen ad, understand what your conversion is on that lead ad. Yeah. So if you're a real estate agent, then nobody's going to fill out a lead form to you. And that's because most people are going to be fearful that you'll get their number, sign them up into a database and start spamming them.
Correct.
So you're going to be wanting to run more message-based campaigns, or you're going to want to be running engagement campaigns and have a follow-up strategy for that. But you want to look at what your lead conversion is, because again, it's all good to bring a lead into the business. How is it handled? What's the instant rapport on that? How is it followed up? Because there'll be a lot of people that will inquire on your Facebook ad because that's where the huge audience is.
Yes.
But it's what you do with that makes the magic happen. And let me give you an example of that. Let's just say I'm running a listed campaign for an agent and someone clicks on my ad and they write back, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Most people would look at that consumer response as, oh, what a waste of time. I don't. I look at that person, I think, could that be a nosy neighbour comparing their home against the listed design?
Mm-hmm.
But they've said to me, oops, because they feel that they're wasting my time. So I'll write back a response really quickly. That's no problem. We love it when people browse our posts. Well, I have you. I'm preparing a few reports for neighbours today. Would you like me to send you an update on your home? Oh, yeah, that sounds great. So a lot of people also don't understand the consumer experience on Facebook. It's weird for me. Like, I don't just walk out to a pub and go, hey, hello, everyone. Hi, right? And that's what we do on Facebook. And it's like, how do we make that person, as soon as we connect with them, feel comfortable?
And a lot of people don't feel comfortable.
No.
It's like, oh, no, please don't contact me.
Yeah.
That's the initial reaction.
Yeah.
So if someone does things properly, they engage with you and you give them the right strategy, how long would it take for them to see results?
Forever. No. Again, there's so many things of how, like, without saying that's a loaded question. Number one, how big a ownership do they have in the marketplace, or how big is their brand in their market that they're operating is, whether a business owner. The second thing is how well they are great with leads, but you should feel it overnight. Like, literally overnight, you will start to get more leads into your business. And I will sit down with you and I have my team do a digital health check into your leads, and I can see very quickly if you're not responding. Like, if I run a text campaign and I get back, I get as targeted as buying data for clients. I upload that in the back end of Facebook for targeting. And as that person's engaging in a Facebook campaign, I'll send them a text message at night, right? So if you can imagine Imogen Callister, oh, who's that girl? Oh, yeah, me. And then I send you a message saying, hi, I just wanted to personally reach out to you. As we've seen a rise in real estate agents, I'm making this up, using digital in your marketplace, I'd love to sit down with you and offer you a free consult or my guide to building your brand, right?
Yeah.
For an agent, that's typically about market growth and how much the area's grown and would they like a price update. It's really important that then there's a formula followed to that, because we want to turn that text lead into an on-site appointment.
Yes. Yeah.
So it should happen rapidly if the process is followed. But I'll very quickly pick up if a client's not following that process because people will text me back, or I'll see the Facebook leads not being managed to, and I'll sit down with them and I'll say, what's our goal again? And I say, okay, well, if that's our goal, I will turn your campaign into views campaign. I'll make you the most visible person across your area and marketplace everybody's ever seen. But if you don't respond to my leads, I'm damaging your brand. And they very quickly go, okay, I'm going to do that.
Yeah. So it goes back to what I always say. If you're going to do something, do it properly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't do it at all. You can't be half in, half out. So once you engage with someone like yourself to implement a strategy, it's got to be done from beginning to end.
100%.
In a very, very planned manner.
And it's also like the same thing. I don't know why on Facebook we think everyone's going to be really nice to us. Like, you know, they're going to fill in a form. Here's my name. Here's my number. I'd like to sell in 3 weeks and come on over. No. Or, you know, I'd like to buy a property in this amount of time or this amount of time. So we have to get really clear that when we're communicating with people, there's always going to be difficult people, great people to communicate with. And you really want to make sure that every conversation and lead you're following up. And that's the real, if you ask me what's the real point of difference with my high performers, they never let a lead walk out that door. They're straight on it. They're replying to it. They're following it up. And I see it because in the back end of their pipeline, like Facebook even has what's called Lead Center now. I can map out their leads. I can watch them, follow them up. And come spring, my team will send them a message saying, hi, guys, just a courtesy reminder about to hit the peak of real estate. This is a great time to follow up your leads. Here's your text, template, which is 14 words. Follow up every lead that's ever hit your Facebook inbox. And I see the difference. They go in there or they get their assistants too. Yeah. And it's like I say, oh, Imi, I got 40 appraisals off that message. And I'm like, yeah, because you did the task. So it's not only just having a brand on social media, but active in your response of it as well and digital.
So if we could give the audience one simple, actionable tip today for them to boost their digital branding or their digital profile, what would you say they should do?
No nudes on Facebook and Instagram, no. One tip. It's really not all worth it at all unless you have a paid strategy.
Good advice.
That sounds really terrible. I think we should have gone with the nude one, but it's not. Social media is not free. Nothing is free. It's if you don't have a paid strategy in place, if you're not running ads for your brand, whether you're a business owner or a real estate agent, it's all pointless really because your brand's not reaching your marketplace.
Okay. So how do you see the integration of AI with digital media?
I love this question on AI. The first thing about AI that we always need to understand is I always say this quote, property has nothing really to do with technology. It's got everything to do with people.
And emotions.
People. Correct.
Yeah.
And AI should make you rapidly efficient in your business. You should be using AI to spell check everything that goes out, help you draft your emails, help you draft your proposal letters, but you should never, ever rely on it because people can tell what a robot sounds like and a human sounds like. This is a really fun fact. I put an error in a text message campaign the other day and I did it on purpose. And I told the client I was doing it because I wanted to see if people then could pick up it wasn't a spam text versus a real text. And guess what? I got more replies. So sometimes perfectionism of AI and what you think AI can do for your business, people know what a robot is. They know, and nobody wants to communicate with a robot. Nobody. This is a people-based business. It is everything we do in service is people-based. Nobody wants to go to a restaurant and have their spaghetti made by a robot. They want the Italian with the traditional love and the right tomato sauce and that little bit of sugar and grandma's spicy blend. I don't know if I'm just a carb lover, but that's what I want.
I love Italian food. It's my favourite.
Right? So there's things that AI can never replace, but there's lots that AI can do to make you more efficient in your business. And if you're not using it in that way, your business is going backwards because your competitor is. So if you have this idea that you're going to wake up tomorrow and AI is going to run your business, get that out of your head. Ask yourself, what tools can you use to make it more rapid in the way that you get back to your customers, and what can you do to effectively engage AI? But also don't get obsessed with it. Like I had a client call me who I love, Petey Florenzos up in Queensland, called me yesterday and said, Amy, I've been to these 3 real estate conferences. I've been to the Ward in New Zealand. He goes, we've got to get across this AI. I said, just don't worry about it. I'm all over it for you. You know, like don't make it the point of your business, because it should support your business. It shouldn't be the fundamental part of your business.
Good advice.
You know?
So on a personal level,
Yeah.
how do you unwind and make sure that your energy levels are at optimum?
Drink lots of alcohol. Actually, I laugh at that, but I don't drink, which makes me sound – so my husband's a health freak, which he's a chiropractor. So I really struggled when I was younger. I really struggled with operating in the high performance business life, you know. And what I mean by that is I fell into a bit of a trap. You know, I'd travel to this location, a client would want to take me out to dinner, I'd drink a lot. And I know I probably sound really lame to everybody listening to this, but I'm a highly structured person. I don't really drink. You know, on a rare occasion I might have a champagne, but alcohol to me, I can't operate at the level that I need to and get back to my clients the way I need to. So a lot of people look at relaxing and unwinding as my relaxation is walking my dog first thing in the morning and giving myself me time. I don't even listen to music because my children are so loud. I just want silence. And then in the evening, I have a sauna every evening, and I relax. Like I go through my bed, you know, my nighttime routine. And the reason why I really do that is because, you know, I think a lot of business owners end up stressed out, fatigued, burnt out. And one of the biggest things I'll ever ask them, I say, do you drink? And it's really hard not to, because I don't want to be that zealous person telling people not to drink, because it's the hardest thing in the world to quit. But the biggest thing I can do is say to you, if you are struggling with that relaxation, ask yourself what your drinking and your eating habits are, because that's what actually fuels your body and your energy. And I know for myself in what I have to which by the way is 2 kids under 3 and a team of 21 and a huge business behind me, and a very emotionally diva of a husband that's highly dramatic at times. I can't do that every day if I'm feeling a bit shady, you know. So my relaxation, even though it sounds very lame, is a sauna, walking with my dog every morning, you know, and enjoying the birds, because that gives me my time to really tune out and make sure I am tuning out, not right. But I'm also not that person where it's like I just don't enjoy a drink weekly. I enjoy it when there's a special occasion.
Yeah. Well, me time is so important, and that you factor that into your day every day.
Yeah.
Makes a difference.
You got to, and you've got to have something to look forward to. We get obsessed with our businesses. We get so focused on them performing. You really have to understand, like, you've got to work to live, not live to work. And like you've got to, every quarter you should have a holiday booked in. You should have something you're looking forward to every week. And that's incredibly hard. That's taken me a long time to get there. And if you're in your early stages of your business, just rule that out for the first 5 years. Like, not going to happen. But if you're in the later stages of it, ask yourself an honest question, which is, are you just doing this because like you're on that rotation pattern, or why are you doing it? And what can you do to build an amazing team around you to make your life easier? Because you'll find yourself on that roller coaster. And that's where like a lot of people that, you know, if I look at someone like Matty Steinwade, who's incredible, but like he's gone on a whole health journey, and I think he's the happiest I've ever seen him, you know, a little bit obsessive with the gym, but he wouldn't mind me saying that. But, you know, like there is that journey of like what truly does make you happy. And you'll typically find that there's things outside your job, you know. Like I even block time in with my little girl, you know. I put my phone on this sounds crazy, but I've got a red filter. So when my little girl gets home from daycare, I put my red filter on. And it's like, if there's something urgent, I'll answer it. But obviously I've got very young kids, so they do get home about 5:30 and people in business now operate till like 7. But I'll see that client's number. I'll see if they've called the client, and that red phone is designed to stop me. And then once I put her to bed, I'll check my phone and I'll reply to everyone. And I'll be like, I'm so sorry, I was just putting my little girl in the bath and my little boy was decorating my office with everything. You know, I promise I'll be in touch with you tomorrow. But it's really hard to take that switch off and give ourselves that. So try and find things in your life that will give you those tools, because I'm telling you that's something that I've really sucked at trying to learn to do, but it's taken me time to do.
And they're very, very important tools to have.
Yeah.
So if anyone from the audience would like to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to reach you? At
Imogen Callister on Instagram. No, Imi or Imogen Callister. You can always type my name into Google and the digital footprint will be exceptional. I love Instagram. I'm obviously on every platform, but that's what I love doing. And you can always just send me a message, or you can get in touch with my team. We'll respond rapidly. The other one is my team is a full suite of services on WhatsApp. So anybody that, while I'm sitting here today, my team have probably received over 250 messages. So if you want to get a hold of me quickly, send me a WhatsApp because I'll reply real quick. It might not be me, but you'll hear from me at one point.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for joining me today. You've been amazing.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.